scriptures we find countless passages in which God speaks in the desert, in the cave, in the early morning, always in places where the noise of the world cannot reach. Elijah, for example, did not hear the voice of the Lord in the strong wind, nor in the earthquake, nor in the fire, but in the still, small whisper. This image is powerful. It reminds us that the mysteries of revelation are not brutal or spectacular, but subtle, delicate and precise, like breathing. The Gospels repeat this pattern. Jesus often withdrew to solitary places to pray. It was not just a gesture of devotion, but a spiritual need for direct, undistracted connection with the divine source. He often speaks in parables, and when asked why he did this, he answers, "Because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given." This is revealing. The mysteries are not available to everyone indiscriminately. They are reserved for those who seek them with humility, with purity, with true spiritual hunger. The repetition of this word, mysteries, throughout the New Testament is not random. Paul, in his letters, speaks several times of the mystery hidden for ages, the mystery of Christ, the mystery of godliness, and even the mystery of iniquity. These terms suggest that the visible world is only one layer of reality, that behind the historical events, the characters and the narratives, there is a deeper spiritual dynamic at work, a battle between forces, a trajectory of the soul, a divine plan in constant manifestation. The mystery of iniquity, for example, is often overlooked but profoundly significant. It points to the presence of evil, not as an isolated force, but as something that operates in a hidden, subtle way, often camouflaged even in seemingly good things. This mystery forces us to look within and realize that darkness is not only in the world, but also within us, in our fears, in our disordered desires, in the illusions we cultivate. The true spiritual war, therefore, takes place first within each being. The mystery of piety speaks of how the divine manifests itself in the flesh, how the Word became man, how the Spirit can dwell within us. This is one of the greatest secrets of the Christian faith, that God is not distant but accessible, that He is not only in a distant heaven, but can live within the heart of those who open themselves to His presence. This completely transforms the relationship with the sacred, no longer as something external, but as a living, pulsating interior reality. The Bible also points to a time when these mysteries will be revealed on a larger scale. The book of Daniel speaks of seals that will be closed until the time of the end, when many will run to and fro, and knowledge will increase. Revelation mentions a book sealed with 7 seals, which only the Lamb could open. These symbols suggest that there are spiritual truths that have been kept hidden, waiting for humanity to mature so that they can be understood. This raises a crucial question. What if that time is now? With the advancement of knowledge, collective consciousness and sincere spiritual search that is growing all over the world, perhaps we are indeed entering an era of revelations, where previously veiled mysteries are beginning to be intuited by souls who no longer want just rituals and pretty words, but rather a living connection with the divine mystery, with the hidden essence of existence. Reading the Bible with this sensitivity is like opening a door to another dimension. Each verse becomes a mirror, each parable an invitation, each silence between words a non-verbal revelation that touches what is beyond the mind. In this state, the Bible stops being an ancient book and becomes a living presence which speaks to you, shapes your perception, and illuminates your path. Perhaps in the end, the greatest mystery of the Bible is not what it says, but what it activates within those who read it with an awakened heart, because the true secret is not in the pages, but in the consciousness that is raised when touching them. The mysteries of the Bible have always aroused fascination, fear, and curiosity throughout the centuries. More than a simple book of spiritual teachings, it holds deep codes, hidden symbolism, and messages between its lines that seem to transcend time, human logic, and even the limitations of language. There are passages that, when read with attention and sensitivity, reveal layers of meaning that are not visible at first glance, as if the Bible were speaking to those who are ready to listen with the eyes of the soul. One of the greatest mysteries lies right at the beginning, Genesis, the creation of the world in 7 days, the presence of the serpent in Eden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. These all seem more than literal accounts. Many scholars and mystics believe that these stories are spiritual archetypes, symbolic maps that describe the birth of human consciousness, the duality of light and shadow, and the eternal choice between divine connection and spiritual separation. Another recurring mystery is the role of the angels and the sons of God, who, according to Genesis chapter 6, came down to earth and had children with human women, giving birth to the Nephilim, a race of giants. This enigmatic passage raises profound questions about the existence of celestial beings, direct spiritual intervention on the physical plane, and even the possibility of an ancient spiritual war that has been reflected in human history. Why is this story mentioned so briefly, and why has it been nearly erased from traditional theological discourse? The book of Ezekiel contains one of the most mysterious visions in the entire Bible. A being surrounded by wheels within wheels, eyes everywhere, lights, thunder, and beings with multiple faces. Many interpret this as a transcendental spiritual vision, but there are also those who suggest that Ezekiel described contact with intelligences from another dimension, or even something that today would be described as advanced technology. Regardless of the interpretation, it is clear that Ezekiel did not witness something ordinary. He attempted to describe the indescribable with the limited words of the time. The Apocalypse, the last book of the Bible, is perhaps the most loaded, with symbolism and mystery. Dragons, seven-headed beasts, seals, bowls, horsemen, trumpets. All of this makes up a scenario of prophecy, judgment, and rebirth. But does the Apocalypse speak only of the end of the world? Or is it describing the end of an era of consciousness, the fall of internal structures, the spiritual transformation of human beings? Many mystics believe that the end described, there is not literal destruction, but the purification of all that is illusory and egoistic, so that a new heaven and a new earth may emerge within us. The name of Jesus also carries hidden layers. In several passages, he speaks in parables, quotes ancient prophecies, and mentions the kingdom of heaven as something that is within you. This suggests that much of his teaching was reserved for those who had ears to hear and eyes to see. He spoke of an awakening, of a realignment of the soul with the Father, of a direct and living connection with God that did not depend on temples, rituals, or institutions. This powerful and liberating message has often been veiled or distorted over the centuries. Another recurring mystery in the Bible is the silence surrounding Jesus' lost years, the period between his childhood and the beginning of his ministry at age 30. Where was he? What did he learn? There are theories and apocryphal texts that suggest he may have traveled to Egypt, India, and Tibet, places where he would have come into contact with ancient spiritual traditions before returning and beginning his public mission. Although these ideas are not officially accepted, they reinforce the perception that there is much more to Jesus than what the evangelists recorded. The Bible also carries mysteries related to language and numbers. In Hebrew, each letter has a numerical value, and this has created an entire tradition known as gematria, a form of interpretation that finds hidden meanings in words, phrases, and sequences. For example, the number 7 appears repeatedly as a symbol of perfection, divine completeness. The number 40 represents transformation, preparation, testing. Everything seems charged with hidden intention and purpose. Ultimately, the mysteries of the Bible are not enigmas to be deciphered rationally, but invitations to dive deep into the unknown. They speak to the soul more than to the mind. The key to understanding them seems to lie less in literal analysis and more in the ability to perceive what vibrates behind the words, that which touches the spirit when the mind is silent and the heart listens. These mysteries are not just isolated fragments of the sacred text. They form a symbolic fabric that is woven throughout the biblical narrative, revealing a hidden wisdom that spans the ages. The very idea that all things were written for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear suggests that there is a spiritual veil over the biblical content, which is lifted only when the seeker is ready, when the heart is clean and the intention is sincere. Another profound point is found in the Gospels and in the words of Jesus. When he speaks of being born again or drinking of the living water, he is not referring to physical actions, but to an inner transformation, a change of consciousness. The kingdom of heaven, as something that is already present within the human being, is a grand revelation. It suggests that it is not a distant place after death, but a state of presence, of enlightenment that can be accessed here and now. This vision is radical because it takes away the power of religious institutions as intermediaries between man and God, and gives back to the individual the responsibility for his own spiritual ascension. The parable of the wheat and the tares, for example, can be read as a simple agricultural story, or as a metaphor about the inner world, where light and shadow coexist, where the ego and the soul grow side by side, until the time of the spiritual harvest arrives, of the separation between what is illusory and what is eternal. The episode of Jesus' transfiguration, when he shines in glory before Peter, James, and John, reveals a dimension of pure light that is hidden beneath the human appearance. Could this not be an allegory about the true divine being that dwells within everyone? In the Old Testament, the symbolism of the Ark of the Covenant also resonates deeply. More than a sacred object that held the tablets of the law, many believe that the ark represented the presence of God within a specific vessel, or even the divine consciousness encapsulated in physical form. The way it was protected, carried, and even feared suggests that there was something much more powerful there than simple relics. Some scholars connect the ark with lost technologies, or with manifestations of intense spiritual energy that only properly trained priests could touch or approach. The tabernacle, with its meticulous design and its divisions into the outer court, the holy place and the holy of holies, can be understood as a representation of the human being himself, body, mind, and spirit. The most sacred place, which only the high priest entered once a year, symbolized the inner space where the divine dwells, accessible only when one transcends all layers of matter and personality. Even the names in the Bible have hidden meanings. Nothing is there by chance. Abraham, for example, means father of many nations. Moses, drawn from the waters. Each name carries a mission, a spiritual identity, and the numbers themselves used in the scriptures, such as the 12 apostles, the 40 days in the desert, the 7 spirits of God, reveal a mathematical and symbolic structure behind the narrative. This indicates that the text was crafted with an almost cosmic precision, as if it had been shaped to awaken something specific in human consciousness. The Psalms, with their powerful poetry, also conceal spiritual formulas. When recited with intention, they can generate elevated states of connection, emotional healing, and even inner liberation. Many wise men consider the Psalms to be true vibrational keys, which, when chanted correctly, activate dormant parts of the soul. Some say that certain combinations of psalms work as codes for spiritual protection, liberation from fears and restoration of balance. And when it comes to the apocryphal Gospels, those that were not included in the traditional biblical canon, the mysteries deepen even further. The Gospel of Thomas, for example, contains phrases attributed to Jesus that clearly point to an esoteric teaching. If you bring to light what is within you, what is within will save you. If you do not bring to light what is within you, what you do not bring to light will destroy you. This phrase echoes a profound call to self-exploration and individual spiritual responsibility. The Bible, at its deepest essence, is not just a historical account or a moral manual. It is a living, multidimensional book that responds to the level of consciousness of those who read it. For some, it will be just an ancient narrative. For others, a battleground between good and evil. But for those who seek with an awakened heart, it becomes a mirror of the soul, a spiritual roadmap, a direct channel to the divine mind. The mysteries of the Bible continue to challenge the intellect and provoke the spirit, because perhaps they are not there to be explained, but to be experienced. Perhaps the greatest mystery lies not in the text, but in the reader, and in what it awakens silently in the most intimate part of the being. And it is precisely in this inner silence that the greatest secrets of the Bible are revealed. Because divine mysteries do not impose themselves with noise, they whisper to the prepared soul. Throughout the